Is your cash in the bank evaporating daily due to inflation? Don't let your money hibernate and lose value. This video will reveal the top 5 asset types that are not only safer, but also help your money grow and create real wealth. Asset 1. Gold. In a financial world that never stops shifting, where governments can print money at will and banks seem constantly on the brink of mergers or collapses, gold stands firm, unchanged, and unshaken. It remains a timeless symbol of real, tangible value. Gold was once the currency of kings, nations, and empires. And today, when everything else can fail, stocks can crash, fiat currencies can lose their worth, and banks can freeze your accounts, gold endures, serving as the ultimate safe haven for those who want to protect their wealth. In 2025, gold prices soared past $3,000 an ounce, a historic high driven by geopolitical tensions, fears over national debt, and even whispers that the U.S. government may have to reassess its gold reserves. The greatest strength of gold lies in its stability and natural scarcity. Unlike paper money, which central banks can print endlessly, gold is finite. It can't be duplicated, replaced, or inflated. It doesn't need interest rates to hold its value, because it already is value. When you hold gold, you are not dependent on any institution or government. It's a physical asset, nearly indestructible, and you can store it anywhere: your personal safe, a private vault, or even hidden securely at home. For those focused on building long-term wealth and securing financial freedom, gold acts like a quiet financial insurance policy. Not flashy, but powerful in shielding you from systemic shocks. Gold's biggest drawback is that it doesn't produce cash flow. Unlike real estate, which generates rent, or stocks, which pay dividends, gold just sits. This makes it less suitable for those chasing passive income or looking for high short-term returns. And while gold generally trends upward in the long run, it can be volatile in the short term, affected by market sentiment, global events, and speculative news. Storing physical gold also involves costs like safes, insurance, and theft risk. For those who don't want the responsibility of storage, digital gold options like gold ETFs can be a convenient alternative, though they lack the satisfying sense of holding real, tangible wealth. If you're worried about the devaluation of currency, rising inflation, or sudden economic shocks, then gold is an asset you simply can't ignore. It might not make you rich overnight, but it will help you stay rich over time. Even central banks around the world are increasing their gold reserves. Maybe it's time you seriously consider adding it to your wealth-building portfolio. Assets 2. Government bonds. When people talk about investing, they often think of stocks, real estate, or gold. But there's one special asset that the wealthy quietly hold, not for explosive profits, but for near absolute stability: government bonds. If you're looking to build wealth steadily without taking on high risk, this is a core piece of your investment puzzle. Take a closer look at the dollar bill in your wallet. You'll see a small but powerful phrase: "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private." Since the U.S. abandoned the gold standard in 1971, the dollar hasn't been backed by gold, but by one thing: trust. Trust in the power, credibility, and stability of the U.S. government. So when you invest in U.S. government bonds, that's exactly what you're doing: placing your trust in one of the world's strongest economies. Unlike other forms of investment, you're not backing a company. You're backing the survival of an entire nation. And no strong government lets itself default, because if it does, the whole economy collapses with it. Just look back at 2008. As massive financial institutions crumbled, stock markets plunged, and real estate values disappeared, trillions of dollars fled to one place: U.S. government bonds. Then again in 2020, during the chaos of the COVID-19 pandemic, investors poured money into U.S. bonds, not for high returns, but for safety, predictability, and trust. Today, with banks offering interest rates between 0.5% and 1.5% per year, 10-year U.S. Treasury bonds are yielding close to 4 to 5%. That's a massive difference if you're planning long-term. Without taking on big risks or riding market swings, you can generate a steady stream of income, enough to outpace inflation and preserve your purchasing power over time. I understand. To many people, bonds sound boring or complicated. But if you're serious about building wealth without gambling on luck, you must understand this truth. Sustainable wealth comes from smart strategy, not emotional bets. And allocating part of your assets to government bonds is a clear sign of wealthy thinking. A friend of mine, nearly 50 years old, told me he's been putting about 30% of his assets into government bonds since the 2008 crisis. When I asked why he didn't put it all into stocks or real estate, he just smiled and said, "When you're nearing retirement, the goal isn't to double your money. It's to make sure you don't lose it." That hit me hard. Wealth isn't just about growing numbers. It's about protecting and sustaining what you've built. The good news? Investing in U.S. government bonds is easier than ever. You don't need to be a finance expert or go through a big bank. With just a few simple steps, you can open an account on Treasury Direct and buy bonds directly from the U.S. Treasury. No middleman involved. If you want more flexibility, you can also invest through bond ETFs, like the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF or the iShares Treasury Bond ETF, both safe and highly reputable options. One more thing to understand: government bonds aren't just about preserving capital. They can also be surprisingly profitable in high-interest periods. When market interest rates fall, the value of your existing bonds rises, meaning you can sell them at a premium and lock in gains. So, beyond receiving steady interest, you also have the chance to benefit from market shifts, if you know how to position yourself. That said, not all government bonds are worth your trust. History has shown us what happens when governments mismanage debt, like Greece's 2009 debt crisis, which required IMF and ECB intervention. So if you're serious about financial education, remember this: only invest in bonds from nations with high credit ratings, political stability, and strong economic fundamentals. In short, if you're 35 or older, entering the stable phase of your career, and want to build a reliable foundation for long-term financial freedom, government bonds are not something you can afford to ignore. They may not be flashy or exciting, but they are the quiet gatekeepers in the wealth strategies of successful people. Don't let your entire financial future rest in the hands of a volatile market. Let part of it rest in the hands of the world's most powerful nation. Assets 3. Real estate and collectible assets. A friend of mine bought a small house in suburban Texas back in 1995 for around $80,000. At the time, people thought he was crazy. The area was empty, undeveloped, and seemingly worthless. But in 2021, he sold that same house for over $350,000. He wasn't a financial expert. He didn't have insider knowledge. But he got one thing right. He believed in real value. Real estate has always been one of the few assets that hold true value over time. In a world where money loses value and inflation creeps higher every year, real estate remains a trusted, safe haven for smart investors. Unlike stocks or crypto, which can crash in seconds, a physical property, land, a home, a building with real people, real cash flow, will always have inherent worth. That's why real estate continues to play a vital role in the portfolios of the wealthy. Look at the numbers. According to Bloomberg, U.S. home prices tripled between 1992 and 2020, even after shocks like the 2008 financial crisis. The reason is simple. Land is finite, but the population keeps growing. People will always need places to live, factories to work, schools to study, and hospitals to heal. That never-ending demand is what gives real estate its long-term value. Of course, not everyone can buy a house right now. With prices rising steadily, owning property might feel out of reach, especially for those 35 and up juggling life's other financial demands. But that doesn't mean you have to miss out. Thanks to financial technology, you can now invest in real estate with much less money through REITs, real estate investment trusts. REITs work like mutual funds, but instead of investing in stocks, they invest in real estate, offices, hospitals, malls, and distribute profits, usually as dividends, back to investors. Take Ventas Inc., VTR, for example. It's a top REIT focused on healthcare properties, from nursing homes to medical centers. With just a few $100s, you can co-own income-generating real estate that used to be accessible only to the ultra-wealthy. That's modern wealthy thinking. You don't need to own 100%. You just need to own the right slice of the right asset. Now, beyond real estate, there's another asset class that rarely makes headlines but holds massive potential for those who know how to spot it: collectibles. Limited edition Swiss watches, original paintings, rare books, vintage cars from the 1950s. These may sound luxurious, but they've long been the quiet channels through which the wealthy pass on generational wealth. Just look at this. In 2022, a 1955 Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR Coupe sold for $142 million, becoming the most expensive car ever sold. Or Leonardo da Vinci's painting Salvator Mundi, which fetched $450 million at Christie's. These items aren't just for display. They're value vaults that can multiply over time. You might think that's way out of my league. But today, technology has made it possible to invest in these rare assets fractionally. Platforms like Masterworks, Rally, or Convey allow you to buy partial ownership in high-value art, collectibles, or rare cars. For as little as $500, you could own a fraction of a masterpiece and earn a return when it's sold at a higher price. This doesn't just give everyday investors access to high-end assets, it also diversifies your portfolio. And in modern personal finance, diversification is everything. No one can predict the future, but if your assets are well balanced across cash, stocks, real estate, and rare physical assets, you're already ahead of most people.
Assets 4. Value stocks and mutual funds. I have a close friend, someone who never dabbles in the stock market, hates taking risks, and couldn't care less about tech or crypto. Yet every year, like clockwork, he receives thousands of dollars in dividends, as if from an invisible ATM. I once asked him, "What exactly are you investing in to earn so consistently?" He smiled and said, "I just buy value stocks and dividend funds. No genius needed, just patience." That simple answer led me to seriously study value stocks and mutual funds. And I discovered a powerful truth. Sustainable wealth doesn't come from wild jumps. It comes from smart investments and letting time do the heavy lifting. In the journey of building wealth, value stocks and mutual funds are two of the most accessible tools for generating long-term, steady returns without the need to obsess over market screens every day. So, what are value stocks? These are shares of well-established companies with strong fundamentals, reliable cash flow, steady profits, and regular dividend payouts. Think Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, household names with simple, proven business models that have weathered countless economic storms. These companies aren't flashy, but they're dependable. If you're 35 or older and working toward future financial freedom, value stocks offer a safe place to let your money grow over time. No need to gamble on volatile tech stocks. You can earn steady dividend income and watch your capital increase as the company grows. And if you don't have the time or confidence to pick individual stocks, dividend mutual funds or value stock ETFs are perfect solutions. A standout example is the Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF, VYM, a fund focused on companies that pay high, stable dividends. With just a few $100s, you can become a partial owner of dozens of top-tier companies across the U.S. Imagine this. If you invested $10,000 in VYM in 2013, by 2023, that amount could have grown to over $22,000, not including the annual dividends you could have reinvested. Meanwhile, if that same $10,000 sat in a savings account, you might have earned just $1,500 in interest over 10 years, likely not even enough to keep up with inflation. Here's a core lesson in financial education. You don't need to be a finance expert. You just need the right vehicle and let your money do the work. Investing isn't a luxury for the wealthy. It's a right and a responsibility for anyone who doesn't want to watch their savings shrink over time. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming investing in stocks is gambling. But when you understand the fundamentals, you'll see the real gamble is letting your money sit idle in a bank while inflation silently eats away at it. Wealthy thinking isn't about taking reckless risks. It's about knowing the difference between real risk and imaginary fear. Personally, I believe the foundation of wealth building should be rooted in stability, and value stocks are that foundation. You can start small, $100, $500 per month. What matters is that you start. If you had invested $200 a month into a fund like VYM since 2013, you wouldn't just have thousands in dividends, you'd also have nearly doubled your initial investment. That's the power of strategic personal finance. Small steps, taken consistently, build real wealth over time. You don't need to be bold or a market genius. You just need discipline and faith in the power of time. Even better, investing in dividend funds doesn't just grow your money, it brings peace of mind. When you see cash flowing in every quarter, even if it's just a few dozen or a few $100s, you realize you're getting closer to financial freedom. And that's a powerful feeling, to know your money is working for you even when you're not. So, if you're an adult with stable income and you're ready to do something smart with your hard-earned cash, value stocks and mutual funds are the perfect first step. You don't need to overcomplicate things. You don't need to time the market. You don't need to go big. You just need to start and let time do the rest. Let every dollar work harder for you. Don't let them sit idle fading away in a low-interest account. Because when you don't let your money grow, you're slowly letting it die.
Asset 5. Cryptocurrencies. The final asset on this list is also the most controversial, cryptocurrencies, most notably Bitcoin. Some call it a scam, others believe it's the future of global finance. But no matter where you stand, one fact is undeniable. Over the past decade, crypto has outperformed every traditional asset class. From just a few cents in 2010, Bitcoin once soared past $109,000 per coin. If you had invested just $100 back then, that tiny bet could be worth tens of millions today. Of course, past performance doesn't guarantee the future, but numbers don't lie. Unlike traditional currencies, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are designed to be beyond the reach of governments, central banks, or any single entity. No printing, no devaluation. Bitcoin's total supply is forever capped at 21 million coins, a fixed limit that makes it digitally scarce, much like gold in the analog era. That's why more and more investors, corporations, and even governments are starting to view Bitcoin as digital gold, a hedge against inflation and the fragility of the traditional financial system. It's also why Michael Saylor, CEO of MicroStrategy, moved over $4 billion of his company's reserves into Bitcoin and called it a shield against financial inflation. But the benefits of crypto go far beyond price appreciation. Bitcoin and top-tier cryptocurrencies operate 24/7 with global liquidity, borderless access, and no dependence on bank hours. In a world where governments are drowning in debt and banks can collapse overnight, owning a decentralized, independent asset that can't be manipulated is one of the smartest forms of personal financial management. Especially if you're pursuing financial freedom, crypto gives you full control of your wealth with no middleman. According to a UK-based consulting firm, as of June 2024, there are 172,300 people worldwide who hold at least $1 million in crypto assets. Bitcoin alone accounts for 85,000 of those millionaires. That kind of potential comes with serious risk. Crypto is extremely volatile. Prices can skyrocket in a week and then drop 30–40% in days. This is not a market for the faint of heart or those seeking steady returns like bonds or real estate. The space also faces legal, security, and public perception hurdles. So without strong personal finance knowledge, it's easy to make emotional decisions and waste money chasing hype or FOMO. In the end, if gold was the safe haven of the old world, then Bitcoin may be the fortress of the digital age. In a time when cracks in the traditional financial system are widening, allocating even a small portion of your portfolio to crypto isn't just speculation. It might be a smart wealth protection strategy. And who knows, maybe this small, bold move could be the first step that takes you from average to rich. So now you know 5 potential investment channels to make your money work effectively instead of being stuck in the bank. Start taking action, research, and choose the right assets to build a solid financial future. Remember to like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on other wealth-building secrets. Wishing you successful investing.